Good evening. We're here at St. Luke, Pastor T.C. Johnson. I have a very special guest this evening. I wanted to have a conversation with the commissioner. So we have with us Commissioner Jess Henry Malone, who was assigned by the governor after the death of our former Commissioner Harrison. So we're glad to have him with us here. There is an election coming up on the 14th of July. And I wanted to talk with him because to see what he's been doing. Why should he be elected to the position? And of course, see, 2 years he's been there. I think it's about 2 years, a little over a year. So we want to get started with the conversation. I want to welcome. Thanks for coming, Commissioner Malone. We're glad to have you.
Thank you, Pastor. I'm glad to be here.
All right. It's a difficult time we're in. This is a strange time. And I guess I first want to talk about during this COVID-19 virus thing, how has this office and what have you been doing for the citizens within the district and within the county?
So the first thing that we did we did an evaluation to see how the constituents in District 6 were immediately affected.
Uh-huh.
And our inquiries and our studies showed us that the most immediate need for the constituents in District 6 was first food, because there were a lot of members who lost their jobs right away, and their immediate need was to make sure that they could feed their families.
Okay.
So we've always had a robust food program in District 6. And what we did was we doubled our efforts. We offered to partnership with Huntsville City Schools, and we offered the Bob Harrison Center because they have a full staff kitchen.
Okay.
We offered them that location as part of their food distribution. They declined because they said that they had enough distribution points, but we offered it to them. And then we wanted to make sure that we were helpful in other measures. And so what we did was we started donating food to the city schools feeding program. They were running it out of the Manor House. And we've been longtime partners with Manor House and with the North Alabama Food Bank. And so what we did was we doubled our efforts with food distribution to those two locations. And we've partnered with 3 large farms in the North Alabama region, and we deliver fresh produce and vegetables not only to the food bank, but also to the community.
Okay. So are there particular points or places where this food produce is given? Because I know we are dealing with some right now. We distribute as well. We pick ours up at Legacy Center. And so what other locations are they in?
So right now, we set up in different parking lots, and we'll send that information out prior to. But we've also partnered with the Legacy Center in their food distribution program as well, because we wanted to make sure that we had the most expansive reach that we possibly could. And then we deliver to senior citizen residences that have a large concentration. We've done that in the past and been successful with it. And so we just doubled our efforts in doing that as well.
Okay. Do other district commissioners, are they participating in the food program the same as?
Not to the extent that we do. We literally, our partnership has been longstanding with the North Alabama Food Bank and with Manor House. The other district commissioners, there's only one that has a community garden, and that's Commissioner Craig Hill out of District 3. And I'm not exactly sure where his distribution points are, but the other commissioners don't participate in community gardens or food distribution.
Since we're on that, one question I was asked last week had to do with this idea that some place there were meat being given. We've only had produce and milk. I don't know of any place, but I'm just asking you this for if that's happening. I'd like to know so I can share it with our group.
So when we get our food shipments in, the majority of them have been fresh fruits and vegetables, but we also get shipments of bread and meat in,
Okay.
but those are sporadic.
Okay.
And as soon as I get those in, I'll be happy to share that with you when we get them in.
All right. How's it been the last almost 2 years now?
Yes, a little over 2 years.
Little over 2 years. What's been your? Let's start with the good stuff. What's been what's been the thing that made you most proud to have the job and of being able to accomplish while you've been here?
Well, as I've said before, and I continue to say today, it's an absolute honor to serve in this capacity. It had been a desire of mine to run for the office once I retired from the city of Huntsville. And unfortunately, with the passing of Commissioner Harrison, I just stepped my efforts up, much more sooner than I had originally expected. But I've gotten good reception, and I've gotten good community support. But one of the things that I have tried to do since I've been in this position is to educate the constituents in District 6 on exactly what the commission's responsibilities are.
Okay.
Because a lot of times we conflate what the county commission does with what a city council person is supposed to do.
Okay.
And so I try to educate our voters on the distinction between the two and what it is that we are responsible for. And of course, once I got this appointment, by law, you have to attend classes specific to county commissioners for 2 years. And I've completed those classes. And then, of course, you know some things going in, but you learn a lot when you sit in these classes. Right. And one of the things that, that I learned, I knew, but I learned more in depth, was the primary responsibilities of the county commission. That is you're maintaining and building of roads and bridges, executing the county's budget, and making sure that you have the basic services in for your constituents. Madison County has a modified system of government. So, okay. So we have districts, but we also have certain aspects of county government that spans the entire county and not just one specific district. But we also have individual responsibilities. And so one of the things that we are individually responsible for is building the roads and making sure that they are properly maintained that fall in the unincorporated parts of Madison County. And so a lot of our constituents, because 75% of this district is in inner city Huntsville.
Okay.
So a lot of people don't realize that we literally have unincorporated parts of Madison County District 6 that fall within the city limits of Huntsville, but they're unincorporated. Case in point is there's a residential area on the backside of Oakwood University that is surrounded by the city of Huntsville, but it is actually Madison County. And so you're responsible for cutting those roadsides. You're responsible for making sure that those roads have good pavement on them, and you're responsible for building those that have not been built. Now, our district has suffered for a long time with funding, especially when it comes to roads and maintenance. But we're doing everything that we can to combat that. And in so doing, we were proud to be able to build and pave the first road in District 6 in over 20 years. And we have since paved an additional road within the same community. And we're constantly evaluating our road portfolio to make sure that the roads that need to be paved and need to have special attention actually get it. That's just one of the things. And then, of course, we're also responsible for picking up curbside trash.
Okay.
And when I first took this position, we were picking up curbside trash with a backhoe, about 5 men, and a couple of pickup trucks. And the men would physically have to pick up the trash from the roadside, put it in the bucket on the backhoe, and then put it in the truck. And that number one is not efficient. Number two, it was not safe. And number three, it just wasn't healthy. And so we were able to streamline our budget and we were able to purchase an automated trash truck for the district. And so we automated our trash pickup, and now that function is handled by one person.
Okay, so from 5 to 1, that means you release some manpower and some finances to other projects.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's an accomplishment. What would you say would be the greatest priority for the district to get done right now? And we're going to talk about some other things because I see a building going up down here at is it Oakwood
in the Parkway. Yes,
what is that building?
So that will be the new Madison County Service Center, and what it will do in effect is it will take all of the Madison County services that are currently being housed in the Madison County Courthouse and move them to the new location. And the only thing that will be remaining in the courthouse will be the actual courthouses and the courtrooms themselves, the Madison County Commission Office, and the Sheriff's Department. All of the ancillary services of the county will be moved out to this new building.
Okay, so that was in the scheme for years, or what? How did that come about?
No, sir. It actually the idea has been talked about for years, and that is what do we do as a commission to minimize the maintenance costs with keeping up with a very, very old and outdated building, which is the courthouse. That on top of not having enough space to house efficiently all of the courtrooms that we need in the 23rd Judicial Circuit. We're short judges and we are short courtroom space.
Okay.
And so one of the things that the commission has been doing for a while is trying to figure out how to relieve the pressure from the courthouse. And so they talked about for a long time building a service center to handle that. And they had about 6 or 7 different locations that they've been kind of arguing over for the last 5 to 7 years. But when I came on board, I had a very good relationship with several of the commissioners, and we started talking about different locations to actually have the Madison County Service Center be home to. And then I started talking to them about the development of every other district in the county and how progressive it is. But then when you come to our district, it's lagging behind the development for the rest of the county. And so we went back and forth for several months on why I felt it was important for the county to invest in District 6. And we had a couple of commissioners that were against it, to be quite frank with you. They were against it. And we had one-on-one conversations with them over the months, and then started getting them to kind of come see things from our perspective.
Okay.
And so that led to me being able to introduce a resolution to the commission to actually purchase the land that a lot of people remember it as the old Bruno site, which is Oakwood in the Parkway. And after several conversations, I introduced that resolution for us to purchase that piece of property. We were able to purchase that piece of property. We purchased it under the appraised value. And then we started the discussions on locating the building there, and then what the building should look like.
Okay. So we'll be able to go down to that building to do most things that we need to do from the perspective of county stuff.
Yeah, so you'll be able to go to that building and do everything that you were doing in the courthouse without physically walking before a judge. Mm-hmm. So whether you were purchasing a tag, getting a driver's license, paying taxes, or anything of that nature, you'll be able to do it in the new Madison County Service Center. And that's a $13 million economic development project. But more importantly, what it does is there's about 1,000 people who visit the courthouse on a daily basis. Okay. We estimate that about 750 of those people will now be at the new Madison County Services Center location. And as you well know, most of the businesses within a 3 mile radius of that location are predominantly housed by Black employees.
Okay.
And so that's going to be not only a big economic boon to Black businesses, but it's going to be an economic boon to that area. And then the city is also investing in that North Corridor. So it was important for us to show the city that we too were going to invest in
from
that
the
area.
county.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. From the county's perspective.
Yeah, because most of the time we feel in the north that it's an election year, and you start throwing a little paint on something on election year. Then once it's over, then it goes away. So that's good to know that the county and the city both are looking at progress in the north. And that's a good thing. The resolution for the I was reading this, the resolution for removal of the statute. That must have been sticky.
It was, but fortunately, we were having that conversation for statute removal long before the public unrest. We literally were having that conversation because that's one of the conversations that I've been having alongside with this Madison County Service Center for over a year, and it wasn't until the unfortunate killing of George Perry Floyd Jr. that conversation began to be amplified, and so then I was able to talk to the other commissioners and say, hey, this is why this statute needs to be moved, because not only is it a declaration of racism in your front door, but the world is changing.
Right.
And we need to be on the right side of history with this. And because we had already been having those conversations, I told the commissioners that I was going to introduce a resolution for its removal. And because we had already had those conversations, I knew I had enough support to actually get it on the agenda. And so once we got it on the agenda, we had a very robust discussion about it. And at the end of the meeting, or not at the end of the meeting, actually it was at the beginning of the meeting, we had a unanimous vote from all 7 commissioners to have it removed.
Yeah, it's very important. I mean, because as you visit that place that's supposed to be justice, those of us who know history know that justice actually was reversed. It was injustice done, and it's right on the courthouse. And I don't think many people realize that the courthouse square is where most of the lynching of Black citizens took place in a very celebrated way.
In the central location of their city or their counties.
Yeah.
And it was just that. It was a display for grown people and kids.
Exactly. And I think once people learn the history, I understand that the city council has voted unanimously to do so as well. But the holdup is at the state level right now for approval, I suppose.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's a holdup. One of the things that, the commissioners especially, no elected official, all of us take an oath to uphold the Constitution and the state constitution. And none of us, wants to just deliberately break the law. But all of us were perfectly clear that we want the statute removed. And the law that surrounds statute removal, the Memorial Preservation Act in Alabama, requires that if you are to move a statute, that you have to make application to them. That is the law. The law says you have to make application. And so what our commissioners want to do is to make sure that we follow the law. Now, we have no presumption at all as to what that committee may render in their decision. But what we do want to do is make sure that we participate in the process.
Right.
And we've made application to the committee. It's our understanding that the schedule for the committee to meet was July the 9th, or is July the 9th. And then once they evaluate our application, they'll render us a decision.
Okay. All right, that's fair enough. So we're in a very high-tech world now. How is the commission dealing with the fact that people are not going into a lot of places due to the virus, and the new norm is probably going to be electronic most things.
So we've been we've been working to upgrade our electronic infrastructure countywide for several years now. Last year, they hired a new IT director, and one of his assignments is to upgrade all county government um, to be able to do as much of its business, over the internet as they possibly can. And of course, they've introduced Skype Business and other media means to get that done. So we've done that, and then the second thing is the county offices have gone back and done retrofitting with plexiglass and screens to make sure that we are in CDC compliance with COVID rules and regulations, and we have sanitizing stations at every location. And we early on, we were the first government to do it locally, but we require that you wear a mask in every county facility.
That mask wearing, do you see that coming as perhaps necessary, that there be a ordinance or that comes out from, say, the mayor or someone that we publicly wear masks?
Personally, I think so. I think it needs to be mandated, just like we mandate wearing a seatbelt. There are a lot of people who would argue that, seatbelts are not important, but the statistics show that if you wear a seatbelt, you're much more likely to survive a wreck and keep your life than you are without it. And the CDC and data has showed the same thing with masks, that you are much more likely to be safer with a mask on than you are with it off. And I would also tell the people watching here that it may not look like it, but we are actually 6 feet apart, even though we're not wearing a mask. But we had them on earlier. But yes, I would like to see it mandatory that we wear masks. And then once people start wearing masks and it's mandatory, it's just a short time later, it's second nature, just about to everybody.
Okay, and I'm going back and forth because this is not a planned out thing. I think a lot of the things you do are technical about with road stuff. How do you manage and supervise the building of a road?
So one of the first classes that I had in Montgomery when I took this position was roads and bridges, building roads and bridges. Fortunately, one of the instructors for that class happened to be a Madison County Commissioner. His name is Commissioner Roger Jones. And so he has a wealth of experience in building roads and bridges in Madison County. And so I would, since we were fortunate enough to have him, in our own backyard, I spent a lot of time with him, learning how to build roads and bridges and understanding how to put crews together to get certain levels of the road built.
Okay.
Unfortunately, District 6 has not had a road crew. So I'm in the process of building a road crew infrastructure in District 6. So until that gets done, I get expertise from District 1, and then of course my own military background from using heavy equipment I do as well. And so I have to make sure that not only I'm familiar with using all of the heavy equipment in my district, I need to make sure that when we hire somebody on,
mm-hmm.
that they first have the knowledge, skills, and abilities to be cross-trained, and in so doing, we're starting now to put together our own District 6 road crew. So what we've been doing is those parts of the roads and maintenance that is out of our expertise, we'll lean on other commissioners to help us out until we get on our feet. But we're gotten to the place now where we cut out all of our own roadsides. We do all of our maintenance work ourselves, between me and two other guys that we've hired on. When I first came on, we didn't have a single guy on staff that had a CDL. And of course, you have to have a CDL to drive all of the heavy equipment. And so now we have two people on staff that have CDLs, and we're training them on the proper use of heavy equipment. And so it's working out. It's a slow process, but it is working out. And of course, the more experience you get, the better you are at finishing projects.
So I read a long list of things that you've done in the little over 2 years. What do you plan to do?
So one of the things that I've learned on the county side is, of course, you can't do anything without money. And then some people will say, well, you can apply for a grant to do this, you can apply for a grant to do that. And yes, that is true to a certain extent. But in county government, you can't govern on grants. You govern with grants. And so you have to be able to do your work within your designated budget, because we have a modified system. So what we do is we try to make sure that when we hire somebody, first of all, you got to have a slot to hire. But when we do hire somebody, that they have the ability to be cross-trained in at least 2 or 3 areas. Okay. Because when we hire somebody, we actually have to make sure that, because of funding, that person can handle more than one assignment, and until we get to where we have the budgets that other districts have, we have to do the very best we can with what we have. And so we've done a good job, in my opinion, with doing that. And we'll take for instance, District 1, which is our neighbor to the north. District 1's budget is a little over $5 million.
Okay.
District 6's budget is $1 million.
Well, quite a difference.
The difference is because our budgets are derived from 2 factors: the number of rural road miles in your district, okay, which are those unincorporated parts that we talked about earlier with respect to road building. And then the other part is the number of rooftops in your district. All of the commissioners have roughly 58,000 rooftops in their district. The variance is in the number of rural road miles. Like in District 1, to our neighbor in District 1, he has a little over 500 rural road miles in his district.
So he has to take care of over 500 miles of road.
That is correct. Okay. And so we have in District 6, we have about 25 miles of rural road miles that we take care of.
Okay, so his budget is larger because he has to take care of more roads.
Because he has more rural road miles.
Has more rural miles.
That's right.
Is there any way to determine how much work is done on those roads in the annual? Because that sounds like, to me, if the road doesn't have to be worked on, you still get paid for the road.
You do. And so, but you also have to sparse out that you got 500 miles of road to deal with. But you're exactly right. When you pave a road, typically they last, depending on the weather and where the road is, it should last at least 10 years. And so that is one of the things that we've been discussing at the commission level on how can we better distribute funding for maintenance and road building across the districts. And so, we've been having those conversations to see what is the best way, to provide equity across the districts. And one of the things that we're looking at, because this is a census year, is redrawing our district lines. And in my opinion, that is probably one of the, if not the most important things that we need to do for District 6, is have the lines redrawn and have a more comprehensive study on how those lines need to be constructed.
Okay. All right. So you mentioned earlier that working with the commission is just a question. Wonder, does everyone have a similar equipment, or do you all use each other's equipment?
No, sir, we don't have similar equipment, and we don't use each other's equipment because when a district buys a piece of equipment, number one, it comes out of their district budget, and number two, they buy that equipment because they need it.
Okay.
So when I took over this district, I had one dump truck, and that dump truck was 32 years old. It stayed in the shop more than it did in the parking lot, and the dump bed was broken on it. And so that's one of the challenges that I have in replacing heavy equipment. I had a backhoe that was in fair shape, and all of the district's vehicles were over 15 years old. And you may know this, but the life cycle of a car is 9 years.
Right.
So once you get past that 9-year mark, not only is the maintenance high, but it becomes extremely difficult to buy parts and to find parts for pieces of equipment. So one of our priorities was to upgrade our fleet and to start putting ourselves in a position to purchase heavy equipment because it's our responsibility not only to build roads and bridges, but to also be able to keep the maintenance up on them, and you've got to have the equipment to do that. So one of our priorities has been to update our fleet. So we have gotten rid of everything that's over 9 years old. We've purchased trucks. We purchased a trash truck. We had a 36-year-old yellow school bus that we were using to transport kids in and others in our district programs. We were able to streamline our budget to replace that bus. And now we have a 2014 Global bus that we use to transport our constituents in for district programs. We've purchased an additional backhoe. It was used, but it's in much better shape than the one that we had. And we've purchased lawn equipment, excavators, and other heavy equipment to augment our community gardening program.
Okay. That's the good part. So let's get to the parts that are not so good. Like the question I hear, or things I hear said, basically about bivocational, that you cannot commit to be a good commissioner and still have a full time as a police officer. I'm sure you've heard that.
I have. I think, like we talked about earlier, it goes back to trying to educate the constituents on what it is that the commission does. And I would say, first of all, it's not been an issue. Second of all, the county commission, whether you think it needs to be changed or not is a different argument. But the job of county commission by Alabama law is a part-time position. Now, if you think that law needs to be changed, I would encourage you to go talk to your representatives and see if they will sponsor a bill to change that law. But that's the law. Alabama senators, Alabama House of Representatives, county commissioners, city council members are all part-time officials. Okay. Now, it's a full-time commitment, but by law, it's a part-time job. So I don't remember, and I've been in Huntsville 23 years, but I don't remember anybody ever asking Laura Hall to quit her full-time job. I don't remember anybody asking Richard Showers to quit his full-time job. I don't remember anybody asking Anthony Daniels to quit his full-time job. Sam Gabon, the senator from here, to quit his full-time job. Never heard anybody ask any of the other 5 commissioners that work full-time jobs to quit theirs. And so, like I told the constituents when I got this appointment, that my plan is to retire from city government when I am eligible. This is my eligible year. And when I retire, I was going to run for this position when it came back up. And we are in that time frame now. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, you know, my name is on the ballot. I am running for the position. And this is also my year to retire. I've been in law enforcement for a long time. And, you know, really, it would be foolish for me to just say, I'm going to quit my job just because somebody does not understand the duality of the positions. Okay. So not only do I owe working so long and so hard in a career to myself to finish it, but I owe it to my family to be able to provide for them. And, you know, I have a young family. My son is 6 and my daughter is 3. You know, so I have to work to put them through school. I hope that they'll continue to be the little geniuses that they are, but that doesn't mean that they're going to get a scholarship. I pray that they do, but in the event that they don't, I need to be able to put my kids through school. And so I'm not going to quit my job before I'm eligible to retire. This is my retirement year. And my goal, I have a calendar on my bathroom door that I mark every day, and I'm in double digits now, you know. But this is my year to retire, and I plan on doing just that.
Okay, Commissioner, I really appreciate you stopping by to talk with her. I wanted to let our people hear your heart, this bivocational thing, what you've done, and what you plan on continuing to do. What we wanted to do is give them the opportunity through our media to be able to see you, hear what you've done, see what you plan to do. I appreciate your time.
I appreciate the invitation, and you know, I will be happy to answer any question that, you know, your constituents have, your members have, or your viewing audience has, because a lot of times, you know, we don't have good information, and that's what we act on. And so, you know, I try to be not only as transparent as I possibly can. You know, I think that we have probably shared more information since I've been in this seat than anybody else has. Okay. And it's, like I've said before, this is the people's seat. I am just privileged to be in it as the county commission representative. But I work for the people, and I work at the direction of the people. So if they have questions or concerns, I am always here to answer those.
No, just the last thing. We were together during the Black Lives Matter march from Oakwood, and you were the chief officer out there, making sure things went well from Oakwood all the way to University, as I remember.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's about a little over 5 years ago.
Yeah,
yes,
right,
sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
How, compared to that, which was students, compared to that, how have the recent demonstrations been different, or is there any difference?
So that first demonstration was, of course, on the heels of Michael Brown. Okay. And the killing of Michael Brown changed the way that the nation did policing. And after the death of Michael Brown, we had riots, we had unrest, we had protests, some peaceful, some not. And we're experiencing the same thing now. I think the difference is that it's more intense.
Okay.
It's more intense. The rallies and the protests are attended by more people. And I believe that that is because now we're in an era where we don't have to listen for people to tell us how something happened. We can actually see it.
Right.
And now we're seeing it in real time.
Okay.
And so when people looked in their TVs and their cell phones and their media devices and they watched this white police officer kill an unarmed, handcuffed black man in real time,
Right.
it sent a different feeling. You know, it's a different feeling. It's a different urge. It's just totally different. And you don't have to analyze anything because you see it for yourself. You don't have to wait for the FBI to come in or some other third party entity to say, well, look at this part of the video. This is what happened. Look at this part of the video. This is what happened. You're seeing this for yourself and you're seeing it in real time.
Yeah. And I think too, the understanding that we've been lied to a lot of times on these cases, that those people who are out there to protect us in many cases, and one of the things I think we're failing to do is understand and recognize those good officers who are out there working hard every day, and making sure that we remember them and they know that it's not them that, we're talking about. But at the same time, I think for me, though I've known some things, this has been happening a long time.
It has been happening a long time. Like I said, I think the difference is now that we're seeing it, for ourselves firsthand. But I tell you, it's tough for a black police officer who tries to do as much as he can right to even perform in this type of environment. Because the community see, some aspects of the community, they see you as part of the problem, right, when you may actually be doing everything in your power to combat what you see every day.
Yeah, and I had some other questions, but I don't want to go there because you still work down there. And, I'm going to say this and we'll go. And just thank you for being here. I remember as a Command Sergeant Major United States Army, when my company, as a first sergeant was a company, as a platoon sergeant, E7 was a platoon, or a squad leader was a squad, and when I became Command Sergeant Major, it was, I was responsible for what my troops did. I was responsible for keeping them in check. And when I didn't do my job, or any of us at those particular levels didn't do their job, and you don't have to even talk about this because it's not fair for me to bring it up, but we would have called it leadership problem for the most part, because the troops know what they can or can't get away with, and that's a balance that has to be struck and stuck to. The other thing I think, and you don't have to address this because you're still in the business, but we had an independent group that were totally independent called the IG, totally independent. They went in and investigated to see if I needed to be relieved or something else needed to happen. And I think policing around the nation is going to, and we're talking about commission, we're not talking about policing. I think of law enforcement, because you all do affect the sheriff's department and all those kinds of things. I think law enforcement has to come up with a way, we have to come with a way where there's an easy, approachable, accessible, independent group of people when a citizen have a complaint at that level. Because in our community, I know we do not trust the way people are policing themselves, because they're protecting more than bringing out the truth. This is an opinion, and therefore the truth begin to believe, well, we can do anything we want to because we're going to be protected. Now, you don't have to. Don't comment on that. I don't want you to come in on that because you're part of the system down there. You're part of that, and it was not fair for you to make a statement that might be used somewhat against you in that regard.
Right.
So,
well, I will say this. I've been in law enforcement for 29 years, and I've been in management for 15 plus. And you're absolutely right. I was also in the military. I was in the Marine Corps for 13 years, and I rose to the rank of sergeant. I didn't make command sergeant, but I did make the rank of sergeant, which of course you know is a non-commissioned officer, and you are responsible for the people under your command. And you're absolutely right. My guys knew where the line was drawn.
Right.
And you didn't cross the line with me. You didn't even get close to it because they knew what the ramifications were behind that. But we also strive to let them see what the bigger picture was. Yeah. And the same is in law enforcement. You know, of course, law enforcement departments work under paramilitary style of management. And one of the things that I've always tried to get people to see, especially, especially where I work, is it is critical for you to understand the chain of command.
Right.
And if you could get your department to understand the profundity of the chain of command, your accountability issues would almost be none. But that also applies not only to the most junior person in your organization, it also applies to your head. Your head also has to understand the chain of command and the responsibility that it has for accountability. And so when you are able to meter those out, the little things won't overtake your group. And I have always said, in law enforcement, one of the things that I learned, and I'm so thankful that I started out in a small town, which was my hometown, because in my hometown, you knew everybody. You went to school with the people that you policed, you went to church with the people that you policed, and you went to play with the people that you policed. And the first thing that you had to learn how to do in order to be a successful police officer in a small town like that is you had to learn how to communicate. You had to learn how to talk to people. You had to learn how to treat people. And once you got past that, the enforcement part was easy.
Right.
You know, I've been in law enforcement 29 years. I've never shot anybody. Now, I've had to draw my weapon to direct somebody's movement, but I've never had to shoot anybody, and I've only used mace twice.
Wow.
And I've done what every young police officer does. I've put people in jail. I've written tickets. I've jumped fences and chased people, but I never killed anybody, and I've only used mace twice in 29 years. That I attribute that to communication, being able to talk to people and being able to treat people really like I want to be treated.
Right.
And I do the same thing in management. In Huntsville, I was the first black sergeant, first black lieutenant, first black captain, and I tell each one of those levels of people that I manage, I tell them on day one, look, I attribute my success to being able to supervise mature people. And if you're not mature enough for me to supervise, then you're going to have to find somewhere else to go. Right. And that's the way that I managed at every level. But I've always been a proponent of third-party review because in law enforcement, you cannot police a community without their permission.
Right.
And one of the things that I've always been an advocate for is, yes, we do have an internal affairs division, and they do the scope of all investigations. But to have that community component in there, in my opinion, just solidifies the trust level that you have between the two. And I think the government has always been a long-standing example of how to get it right. I mean, they've done it not only on the civilian side, right, but on the military side as well, by establishing that Office of Inspector General that is completely independent of the departments and the agencies that they investigate,
right,
and who they report to.
Exactly.
And I think that level of independence is
needed now around the nation, not just here. I talked to them downtown about here, but it's needed everywhere. That will give me more trust. Right now, I feel, and others feel as if people, because they're sworn officers, can do anything they want to, and actually get away with it because there are no checks and balances downtown like that. Anyway, we've gone longer than I thought. Thank you for coming.
Oh, my pleasure.
All right.
Thank you.
Good luck on the 14th. You're asking the vote for Jess Henry.
Yes, sir. Let's vote Jess Henry Malone, Madison County Commission, District 6. And if you can't remember all that, just leave it Malone.
We'll see y'all. Thanks.